Ladies and gentlemen, I am sorry. I said we were doing this every week, and it's been a while since we looked at some real dynasty trades in a video here. We had the NFL draft that threw off our entire schedule, but all of these trades are going to be after the NFL draft happened. So yes, we're going to get new price points on someone like Kenneth Walker with Zach Charbonnet in Seattle. We're going to get a new price point on what these rookie picks are actually worth with how those tiers drop. But before we get into it, you better be dropping a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. We used to get these trades through Twitter, and I even sent out a tweet last night asking us for the trades. But I mean, we actually had so many people submit these in our Flock Fantasy Discord that it looks like from now on, we're just going to do these trades through the Flock Fantasy Discord. So everybody who submitted a trade here is a member of the Flock on flockfantasy.com. So thank y'all so much, of course. And if you want to join the Flock, it's not too late. You can do so on flockfantasy.com. Sign up with promo code FLOCK and you're going to get 30% off any subscription. And on top of this, you are going to get my Dynasty Fantasy Football rankings and the Dynasty rankings of all your favorite content creators. But let's go ahead and let's dive into this first deal that we'll be looking at. Now, this first one is a little interesting in that it has a player that I've actually been drafting a lot on Underdog over the past week or so. We're going to be looking at Dameon Pierce as well as David Montgomery versus a 2024 first. Now, y'all remember, I mean, before the NFL draft, we said that Dameon Pierce was a buy low candidate because everybody had it priced in that the Houston Texans were going to be adding in another running back. But with the addition of Devin Singletary as Dameon Pierce's backup, all of a sudden I was less worried about that. And yeah, Dameon Pierce wins the NFL draft here. You get a massive quarterback upgrade with CJ Stroud. Nobody else goes to that backfield. So, I mean, I personally been drafting Dameon Pierce a ton on Underdog in like the 6th round. Clearly, this is a valuable asset from a dynasty perspective, as this is a running back that's going into year 2. You have David Montgomery as well. And with Montgomery, I mean, this is a running back that is running behind an elite offensive line. He's stepping into a Jamal Williams role, which last year pretty much led the NFL in rushing touchdowns. So yeah, I mean, I understand how we're sitting here going, okay, well, these running back depth pieces are interesting. Now, my personal issue with going through and making trades like this for a running back depth piece, right, is if we're selling our 2024 first in May, we better be extremely strong contenders, right? We better be a top 3 team in the league, and we better have a juggernaut roster if we are willing to send away our 2024 first. Now, with that being said, if we are a juggernaut team, does Dameon Pierce really make a difference on our team? I don't know. If I will say, if this is an extremely deep league where it's 12 plus teams, we start 11 or more guys, then yeah, I'm fine going ahead and making it. But it's just a little difficult in my mind to be going through and selling 2024 first right now. I'm always someone that would rather sell these picks once we get to the season. We can guarantee that we are contending and we know exactly what we are buying. Now let's go over to our next deal. We're going to be looking at a Garrett Wilson trade where we trade Garrett Wilson almost just in return for Amari Cooper and Christian McCaffrey. Now I understand with Rashad Penny, this is a running back that, yes, is going to be an elite rushing offense. Yes, you have, I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles probably is the favorite team to lead the NFL in rushing touchdowns, but you have DeAndre Swift coming over. They pay Rashad Penny absolutely nothing. I'm not really valuing Rashad Penny as the difference maker this next season. He's coming off a serious injury as well. This is just Garrett Wilson versus CMC and Amari Cooper. I understand this deal if you are a strong contender this next year and you're going, you know what, Mason, man, if I'm able to bring in the running back 1 overall in Christian McCaffrey, I win the league this season and we get an additional wide receiver piece in return. Like, I understand that thought process. If you're just making this trade and you're selling Garrett Wilson, a truly special wide receiver, you better be a contender. And very similar to our next deal, you better be a contender if we're trading for Derrick Henry. Now, this is a price point that I actually really like acquiring Derrick Henry with. Now, of course, Derrick Henry is going to turn 30 at the very end of this next season. So Derrick Henry, you're drafting for his 2023 production and really nothing beyond that. But if we're looking at who you're going to have at the 201, right? I mean, nobody exciting. The 201, you'll be lucky to get Michael Mayer pretty much. The 307 is just a pick that you can throw right in the garbage. So this is, in my mind, a very nice price point on Derrick Henry. And yeah, I in general don't want to be selling rookie picks, but if we're going to do so, this is how I want to. I want to go through and trade a second and a third this year when we really know what that pick's going to be, compared to like trading away a 2024 first. But now let's go over to our next trade. This one's going to be Stefon Diggs and Miles Sanders versus Hollywood Brown, the 111, and a couple second rounders. Now, if we're going to look at Miles Sanders versus the 111, I actually think that these are somewhat comparable assets, because 111, you're most likely going to be looking at a player like Dalton Kincaid. And while, yes, with Dalton Kincaid, he's a very exciting tight end, what's really surprising is if you're looking at underdog drafts right now, I mean, for just 2023, the man's already going as a low-end tight end one, which I didn't expect people to be that excited about a rookie tight end. I get it. You go to Buffalo, you're a round one NFL draft pick. It's the best situation you could possibly imagine. But still, redraft / best ball drafters are already kind of all in on Dalton Kincaid. And then, of course, side note, if you want to get in a draft today, Underdog just launched their $15 million Best Ball Mania contest. You can go sign up with promo code FLOCK and hop in some drafts with us on the live stream. We're doing over 700 drafts on the live stream this year. I mean, when you use promo code FLOCK, you're going to get a 100% deposit match. You are going to get exclusive Flock Fantasy merch if you are both a member of flockfantasy.com and Underdog. And if you're a member of flockfantasy.com and Underdog, you're going to get an additional Underdog credit. Plus, quick side note, tonight they do have a special Jaylen Brown free bet going for everybody. They've had a few of these through the playoffs. I don't know how many more they're going to have though. But yeah, Sanders versus the 111, I kind of think that's a fair trade. And I'm not even a big Miles Sanders guy. If I'm looking at Stefon Diggs versus Hollywood and a couple second rounders, I understand Diggs is the older asset, but if I'm contending, I'm completely fine taking the Stefon Diggs and Miles Sanders side there. Now, going over to our next deal, we're going to be looking at the 108 and 209 versus DK Metcalf. 209, we're going to be lucky to get Roschon Johnson. Like, really, we shouldn't be valuing that pick. 108, you're going to be in a range where we're just going to get whoever's left over between Jordan Addison as well as Quentin Johnston. Let me go ahead and pull up my rankings on flockfantasy.com, and I'll tell you exactly where I have these guys. I mean, in my mind, you're looking at Metcalf, obviously, as an asset that you're going to prefer if you are a contender, where with DK Metcalf, yeah, he's drafted in 2019. He only stayed 3 years at Ole Miss, though, so it's not like DK Metcalf is that old. And also, while yeah, you add in Jackson Smith and Jigba, at the end of the day, Tyler Lockett probably won't be with this team in 2024, so I don't necessarily know exactly how the Metcalf production is going to be impacted in the long term. So if I'm going to be looking at my rankings on flockfantasy.com, this isn't the overall average rankings of everybody, this is just my own. I have DK Metcalf at wide receiver 13 in comparison to Quentin Johnston at wide receiver 19. And obviously that 209 is not really moving the needle much here for me. So if I'm a contending team, easily give me Metcalf. But here is the opposite end of the spectrum, right? Here we are looking at Metcalf, a 2025 first, and Jahan Dotson versus the 101. I understand the thought process here. If we're not ready to contend and you want to really go through and sell Bijan, maybe I'm just biased. Maybe I'm just losing my mind here a bit. But Bijan Robinson right now in redraft leagues is being drafted as the second running back off the board. In redraft leagues today, he is only being drafted behind Christian McCaffrey. The man is 21 years old. I think if we exclude quarterbacks, he is the third best asset in Dynasty Fantasy Football. I think almost how you treat like Josh Allen in a Superflex league, you should almost treat Bijan Robinson that way in a one quarterback format, where unless I am 100% confident that whoever is getting Bijan Robinson is overpaying, I am 100% going to go with the Bijan Robinson trade. There's no such thing as a close Bijan Robinson trade. It's either you're for sure overpaying or you're getting a good deal on Bijan. Now, our next deal, we're going to be looking at Derek Carr versus a second and a fourth rounder. Now, this was in a 10-team Superflex league, and I really just wanted to highlight this, and I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, this is crazy, but this is what a 10-team Superflex league looks like. You're going to find that in those 10-team Superflex leagues, in comparison to a 12-teamer, you are always able to go through and trade for Derek Carr, Geno Smith, Kenny Pickett, Mac Jones. Whenever, on average, in those 10-team Superflex leagues, everybody will be able to average 3 to 4 starting quarterbacks on their own roster. Like in general, those guys that don't have a lot of upside, you're going to be able to get for pennies on the dollar. So I just wanted to highlight this and saying, if you were getting in a 10-team Superflex league, quarterback value is going to be drastically different than a 12-team Superflex format. Now, going over to our next one, we're going to be looking at Jahan Dotson, the 106, and a future second, versus Treylon Burks, the 110, 210, and a future third. To be honest with you, I'd rather have the future second over the 210. I would rather have Jahan Dotson over Treylon Burks. I'd rather have the 106 over the 110. So I'm going to go Dotson here pretty damn easily, but I am a big Dotson fan. I thought he was a phenomenal prospect and obviously had a much better year one than Treylon Burks. Now, going over to our next deal, we have Odell Beckham Jr. in this one. And you know, I am an Odell fanboy, right? Like, I am about to hang up the vintage Odell New York Giants jersey that we used to have way long ago in like 3 studios ago. But if you can sell Odell for a second rounder right now, like Kondre Miller may be the pick at the 204 here. If you are able to sell Odell for a pick in that range, I'm all about it. If you can sell Odell for Michael Mayer, with Odell Beckham Jr., kind of hoping that he's going to be a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4-ish this next season. I mean, that's at least where he's being drafted in best ball drafts right now. And the man has 1 year left in him. So yeah, I would love to just sell Odell for pretty much any early to mid second we could get. Now, our next deal is going to be a closer one, right? We have Garrett Wilson in the second versus the 104 and 108. And my initial reaction is, okay, Garrett Wilson is the guy we want. Great prospect, great year one. But if you really sit here and think about it, if this is a 12-team Superflex league, you're looking at Garrett Wilson versus CJ Stroud and Quentin Johnston, which at that point, things become much more difficult. At that point, I think it's almost like we can just say fair deal kind of up to your roster. And honestly, may rather have the 104 and 108 there. Now, our next deal is also a very interesting one. We're going to have Cam Akers versus Tyler Algier and a second-round pick. I think if I'm a rebuilding team, I'm fine going through and taking Algier in the second. And if all of a sudden Bijan Robinson gets hurt, we can look to sell Tyler Algier to the Bijan Robinson owner. If I'm a contending team, I'm definitely going to go with Akers. If I'm in the middle, I don't exactly know. I'll probably still go with Akers. Now, our next deal, we're going to be looking at the 102 versus Elijah Moore and the 104. Now, this one's interesting because if you're playing in that Superflex format, right, there's not that much of a difference for a lot of people between those top 3 quarterbacks. Now, I understand that some people will say, oh, Mason, you're crazy. Anthony Richardson is way better than Bryce Young, way better than CJ Stroud, where other people will have the exact opposite thought. Now, I personally would be fine to move from the 104 to get to the 102 if you were strongly convicted in taking a quarterback at pick 2. If you knew exactly who you wanted and you were saying, Mason, I am one of those guys that is in love with Anthony Richardson, go for it. This is a very fair price point. And then at the same time, if you were like a CJ Stroud believer and you're going, you know what, man, I don't really know who I'd even want between Richardson and Stroud. Let me just pick up a wide receiver for free. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense as well. So sometimes I love dynasty trades like this where it can be a fair deal for both people. And it really just comes down to what they personally want, who they personally believe in. Now, our next deal is going to be a Deshaun Watson, Bijan Robinson deal. We have Watson, the 107, who we can assume is most likely Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, versus Bijan Robinson. If this is like a 12-team Superflex 6-point passing touchdown format where you don't have a ton of flex, I can see the thought process in going to Deshaun Watson here. Watson could still easily be an elite level quarterback from a fantasy football perspective. If you have deep starting lineups, then also Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison can make a large difference in this trade. Maybe even whoever get the 201, maybe Zach Charbonnet falls. That can move the needle for you as well. If this is a 10-team Superflex league, then honestly, I'm just going to go ahead and take Bijan Robinson. So I think this is a very interesting and a very fair deal. I think it almost depends on the format you're playing with. Now, this will be the first time you hear me say this, okay? We have a Brock Purdy trade where I'm fine taking Brock Purdy. This is Brock Purdy and a future first versus Kenneth Walker. You know, I had Kenneth Walker as a top 5 dynasty running back going into the NFL draft. But to see the Seattle Seahawks go out of their way and take a running back in the second round, at that point, I just have to completely change my thought process with Kenneth Walker because Walker can't be a bell cow anymore. We're never going to get Kenneth Walker with 20-plus touches a game in Seattle. It's just not going to happen outside of the Zach Charbonnet injury. Now, yes, you can still get Kenneth Walker 15 touches a game, Zach Charbonnet 10 touches a game. That's completely possible. But for that level of investment into a running back, we would be foolish to assume that Charbonnet does not have a large role. Top of this, Brock Purdy could be a starting quarterback this next season. Hopefully not for the 49ers. Hopefully that's Trey Lance, but who knows? So I feel like you're getting like a free bet on Brock Purdy here. Where honestly, based on what I've seen from a lot of people, I think I may be looking to go through and sell Kenneth Walker, if I'm going to be honest. Now, our next deal, we're going to look at Dobbins in the 207 versus the 105. Now, I personally loved Dobbins in redraft last year. Like last season, he was one of my most drafted running backs on Underdog. And honestly, I was wrong. I should have listened to everybody who was talking about the knee injury. For whatever reason, I thought it wasn't going to be too big of a deal. And yeah, like I said, I am the first person to admit that I was wrong last year. But now he is another year removed from that knee injury, right? And at the same time, if we're going to be looking at J.K. Dobbins, this is a running back that was a great prospect, led the NFL in yards per carry his rookie season. Now is fully healthy in what should be a very good offense. I think Dobbins is an interesting buy low candidate. Now, this price is too much, to be honest with you. I'm going to go 105, 105. Hell, we could be looking at JSN. We could be looking at Jahmyr Gibbs, possibly. And even if it's a one quarterback format, you're still looking at Quentin Johnston. But yeah, so it's close-ish. I'm going to go 105, though. But I think that's all I have for you. Again, thank you so much for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. Of course, if you have not done so already, drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And if you play Dynasty, hell, it's never too late to go ahead and join the flock. You can find the link to flockfantasy.com down there in the description and the comment section. Get my Dynasty rankings. Get your Dynasty trades broken down in videos like this. Thank you so much for everything, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate you and really do hope that you have a great day.